Now I'm going to change things up a little bit now, and we are going to have an interview with our special guest that has come in today. So Andrew Edmondson is a Paralympian, and Andrew grew up in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, and his dream was to one day wear the green and gold as a rugby player. He was thrilled to receive a scholarship to attend a sports school, and had his whole career and mindset all ready to pursue that goal that he had. Unfortunately, when he was 13, that all had to change. Andrew went with his friends to Coogee Beach one day and unfortunately met with a sandbar. After a lot of tests and various bits and pieces that went on in those following days, it turned out that Andrew was diagnosed with a condition that was going to leave him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Now, Andrew could have taken this as an opportunity to, I guess, digress and to forget about his dreams and to kind of sit in the corner and just let life happen around him. But instead, he took the challenge that was presented to him and took the time and the effort and built the resilience around coming back and not only becoming the person that he desired to be and to input into his community, but to also represent Australia at the Paralympics. So we're going to hear a little bit about Andrew on a video now, and then we'll come back and have a chat with him and interview him with some questions.
He leads with his energy, his dedication, and he just plays his heart out.
And be proud as he is to be playing for his country is fantastic to watch.
I just remember watching it like, oh, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen, but I want to try it. Ever since I can remember, I love sport.
Andy always would have been an athlete, that's for sure. I mean, that kid, all he wanted to do was play footy.
My ambition was one day, hopefully, play for the Wallabies. You know, as a little kid, you dream about lots of different things, but that was definitely the one that someday I knew I really wanted to do.
He loved sports, he loved football, cricket, golf, anything outdoors. A group of us always used to go down to Coogee Beach on a Friday night, and the kids would all have a swim.
I was only 13 years old at the time, and it was a bit rainy and cloudy outside, and we just thought, oh well, we'll still go for a swim anyway. And just remember getting to about waist deep water and just dove in. Next thing I remember is hearing a loud pop and a real flash in my eyes and feeling like I was drowning, and I was just completely numb. The doctors flat out said I'd broken my neck really badly and most likely to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life.
You just go into this state of shock. I knew it was him when I got down there, and I knew it was him in the hospital, but I don't think you believe what was happening was happening.
I was in hospital for about 11 months. The mental side of it was by far the most challenging. There was 1 week where I just didn't want to be around anymore, and I didn't want to be who I was. I wanted to give up. It was actually my mum came up one day and just really sort of gave me a serve, and then I think when she left, she told no one to come and see me for 3 days. Just leave him there and let him figure it out, and that was probably the toughest 3 days of my life. That was a really big turning point in my whole journey so far, is I guess realise that I was still alive and I was still capable of so many different things, and I've been given a second chance. I was in rehab at hospital, and a guy told me about parasports, and it was the first time I ever saw wheelchair rugby. From that day forward, I just couldn't stop telling people about this sport. A few weeks after that, got taken out to a come and try day, and I just remember hitting someone in a wheelchair, and it was like honestly the first time I've smiled since I had my accident.
Andrew turned around and said to me one day, "Mum, I want to play that sport." And I said, "Darling, if you can play that sport, I'll be the proudest mum in the world."
2012, I was like, I'm going to put my entire focus on trying to make it onto that team, and I quit my job and I just started training. A few years after that, did I get my first opportunity to play for Australia, and I've loved being part of it every minute since then.
Rio, it was Edmo's first Paralympic Games, and what a fantastic campaign it was for us in wheelchair rugby. He played a crucial part in the semi-final against Japan. He got about 3 or 4 turnovers in a row. It cemented us into that gold medal game.
Australia going on to compete for a gold medal. It is the United States and Australia who will battle for gold.
It's what everyone wants, that gold medal every 4 years, and by far the toughest experience of my life playing in that final. There was 16,000 people all chanting for us, and it was definitely, as soon as I went out there, it felt natural.
My heart starts pounding every time I talk about that game because I can't believe how it ended.
To Bond. Bond will turn it across the line.
We're going to double overtime.
Inside to Wheeler, but Wheeler has left the field of play. It's up to bats, and it's over. They will win the gold medal.
First people that I looked at, it was my family, my friends in the crowd. We just won a gold medal, and arguably one of the toughest games that have ever been played, and just being in that moment was pretty amazing. Tokyo, it's its own event. This is the time that you have to put everything in, and you don't want to get there with any regrets about your lead up to the games. It'll be the first Paralympic Games I'll have being a dad.
I can't wait to show Carter how amazing his dad actually is.
There's a lot of things people don't realise about parasport, and to play a sport which is the only full contact parasport out there, it's crazy.
I couldn't believe that people could tackle each other out of chairs, could hit each other that hard.
What they're able to do opened my eyes. Anything's possible.
If you're dealt a blow in your life, something always comes out for the better. I think it's been the best thing for him to be playing for his country.
We've got a lot of on-court captains, people who lead from their actions, and Edmo's definitely one of those people. He loves playing for Australia.
As a team, we would love to win that gold medal, and we'll be doing everything we can to make sure that that's the way it goes.
And I'm smiling just having watched that. What an inspiration. And I'd like to now introduce Andrew Edmondson live to our chat today. So thank you for joining us, Andrew.
You're welcome. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we've got a few questions that have been circulated through our group to ask you today. And the first of those is, what do you think is your most important piece of advice for leaders in a workplace for people with disabilities?
I think by far the most important thing, and I think what a lot of people that have disabilities desire is just to feel normal and to be included. There's a lot of things that come with disability, and each disability is different. You could put 100 people in a room that are disabled, and every single one of them will be unique and will be different, and will have different circumstances, and that's really important to understand, because there are some people with disabilities that don't need as much help as, say, other people with disabilities. And it's really important that when people with any person with a disability just gets sort of treated as normal, and everything that you do or how the day works is just normal, so that that person can feel just as much part of the team as everyone else without feeling too, I guess, in the way, for their way of putting it. So yeah, I think it's just really important that just treat people with disabilities as normally as you can.
Lovely. And who are you outside of being an athlete? We've seen Andrew the athlete. Who's Andrew the person?
Yeah, it's not a question I get asked a lot, actually, because everything, or a lot of public speaking and stuff that I do is all about rugby. And yeah, it's a huge part of my life, obviously being the sport, but beyond the rugby court, I'm a very different person. Yeah, very relaxed, easygoing. Very much enjoy these days my family, and like in the video, I've got a little boy now, so I spend as much time as I can with him. He keeps me busy, but yeah, just I work pretty much full time for Melrose Wheelchairs, which is a wheelchair company. So I travel all around New South Wales, scripting out people and selling them all different types of wheelchairs. So that combined with my rugby career, which I put training in 5-6 days a week, just to be part and maintain being part of the Australian team, and something that I've committed for a little bit longer as well. So something that'll I think I've got a little bit more left in me after Tokyo. But yeah, it's got a pretty busy life these days, but I love it. I'm very lucky to be in the situation I am, to be able to have a job and have a family, and to be able to drive around and do the things that I do. I'm very lucky.
And isn't it funny? Often, people reflect, and it seems to be quite a thing with many people with disabilities, that we often lead a more challenging and busy life than your average person. You've just listed like a full week of activities pretty much for every week, 24/7. And, there's, I'm sure, plenty of time that you set to relax as well. But, all of those activities suddenly make you sound like you're doing more than the average person does. And I think that's really awesome.
Thank you.
So next question, and this is one that I love to ask. What is the funniest thing that has happened to you related to your disability? We've all got one of those stories, and I'd love to hear yours.
God, just one. There's so many different things. I think for me, obviously having a disability at such a young age was really challenging, but not only for me, but for the people around me as well, my family, and also my friends. Like, obviously being young 13-year-old boys as well, not many of us understood disability and how it worked. And for me, it was really important that I sort of got back to school and started to be around my friends and started to feel as normal as I could. And I had some really good friends that were great at sort of just introducing me back, just, as normal. And I think a story that lives with me a lot is we're actually just going to the movies, probably about 16 years old at the time, and there was probably a queue of 100 people waiting to get in this movie. And as we were going just along where all the people were standing, my mate thought it would be really funny to just tip me out of my chair and then run away. So yeah, much to the shock of the 100 people that were standing there waiting for the movie, to see a guy in a wheelchair just fall out of his chair and then these boys sort of run away, it was a lot of shocked faces, but to them it was really funny. And to me, at the time, obviously a little bit embarrassing, but saw the funny side of it later. Again, I was never going to get hurt in that situation. I don't know, I was a tough young kid. Even if I have a disability, falling out wasn't going to hurt me too much. So you saw the funny side of it a little bit later that night. But just to see the shocked faces on people when that happened was something that I'll never forget.
Absolutely. And I'm sure your mates had a good laugh about it, and I'm sure you can recollect back to those days with them now and go, remember that time?
Yeah, definitely.
And one question for you, did that get you to the head of the line, or did you still have to wait in queue?
No, still had to wait in queue.
Bugger.
But there was a few angry people when they all started to come back, and yeah, there was a lot of questions going on. But once we were all laughing and smiling about it, I think people got that it was just a joke.
So the next question is, what is your motivation?
I guess within my sporting field, my motivation right now has changed a little bit. We just finished up in Tokyo where we didn't have the greatest result ever. We ended up finishing 4th, which for us, being the team we are and having the history that we do, is pretty disappointing actually. So for me, yeah, look, it's about becoming a leader in the team now. I've been around for a fair few years, and it's sort of time for me to sort of step up. We've got a good group of young people coming through onto our team, and for me to help guide them into the program and give them the opportunities that I've had within the team is something I'm really really proud of. Beyond that, in my everyday life, it's just most importantly just to be who I am. I'm not shy away from my disability. That's something that I've been really proud of. I'm myself and people around me are fully aware that I have a pretty significant disability, but it's never held me back from anything I want to do in my life. I've had different jobs. I've traveled around the world. I've met a lot of people. I play a really cool sport, and I have my own family now and a little boy. And for me, it's any person I meet in the street, to greet them with a positive attitude, I think is something that's really important. I think disability is not necessarily frowned on, but looked at in a different light. So often when people see people with a disability, they might instantly sort of feel sorry for them or not quite understand what the situation is. And for me, it's sort of changing that perception to them seeing me doing the things that I'm doing and getting a positive light from it. Whether it's be me getting out of my car independently, helping my son do something, if people see that and see disability and positive light, that's something I'm really passionate about. And whatever situation I'm in, public speaking is something I really enjoy. And to get that message across again, that people with disabilities, it's not all bad. They have great lives, and there's a lot of positivity that can come from a disability.
So cool. So a mentor to your teammates and an inspiration to everybody else. It's fantastic. Now I'm going to give you the keys to the country for the day and make you Prime Minister. What are you going to change to make it a more accessible place to be and live in?
Oh God, I honestly I couldn't tell you where to start. There's obviously having a disability over the last almost be 18 years in January, so more of my life with a disability than I was able-bodied. It's opened my eyes up to a lot of things, and in my time, even in that 17 years, the change that I've seen happen, not only in just places, going places, public transport, the introduction of something like the NDIS, all of these things have been so great, and disability and the perception of disability has come a really long way, to the point where like events like this are happening, and there's a day where not necessarily we celebrate disability, but we have the opportunity to potentially understand it a little bit more, is something that's really, really important. So I think if I was Prime Minister, I'd honestly just keep pushing those things. Something like today is really important. I think also too, finding people with a disability in the community that giving them a light to be role models. Someone like Kev Fernley, who's doing amazing things out in the community. People know about him, his story and what he's done, and understanding that they just get a greater perspective of what disabled people are capable of, but also what they can do, and the perceptions that they can change in their community. So honestly, I would keep pushing towards inclusivity or disabilities in everything in everyday life, working towards more accessibility to places. I can go to a lot of places these days where it's great. There's a lift, there's a ramp, there's a disabled toilet. There's many places that I go, there's not even a curb at the end of the street for me to get down onto the street. So keep pushing towards those changes, and also just, I guess showing disability in a positive light is something that I would really push towards.
Awesome. Some excellent ideas. And I think maybe ScoMo better look out for his job. Yeah. Next question is, what is the most important piece of advice you could give to somebody who was interviewing someone that's a candidate with a disability for a workplace role?
I think it's what I touched on and sort of something I meant in the video, and I often speak about, is just trying to, I guess, be normal. That's the one thing. Like obviously, people like myself with a physical disability, you're always going to be looked at differently. You obviously, because we are different. Pushing around in a wheelchair is very different to able-bodied people going about their life. So I think, most importantly, it's just trying to make that situation most, not obviously pretending that disability isn't there. It's always going to be present, but trying to minimize that as much as you can. Treat the person as you would anyone else. There's been situations in my life that have been challenging in that, you know, people have, in just a general conversation, come right up to my face and spoke really slowly, thinking that because I was in a wheelchair, it would be difficult for me to communicate like, I guess, a normal human being. So things like that, you know, make situations really awkward. And I think, yeah, just having, I guess, an understanding of disability as well. Obviously, like I said before, there's so many different disabilities. So, you know, not knowing every single one is important, but potentially if you were interviewing that person and you knew that they had a disability, just a quick look on what that disability was and just educate yourself about what that might be. Say if that person had cerebral palsy, they have a few issues with communicating, so maybe it might just be some different way of communicating, or if someone has a physical disability, just making sure that obviously that space is accessible and they have a place where they feel comfortable. So something like that would be my recommendation for sure.
Fantastic. Something for us all to take on. Now, this is something that I often get asked myself, and I'm going to ask it of you. If we could wave the magic wand and we could take away what happened 17 years ago, and we could put Andrew back to that 13-year-old boy that decided to go to the beach and have that adventure on that day.
Yeah.
If we could wave the magic wand and have the decision as to whether to do that again or not, would you change anything?
I've had this question actually a fair few times in my life, and to be honest, it's changed a lot over time. In the early days, obviously, yes. I think 100% I would go back and change it. I had a great childhood. I had a great future ahead of me, and yeah, at the time, early days of my disability, I did think I would go back and change things. It was obviously very difficult for me, not only physically but mentally as well. Now, however, being in the situation I am, there's absolutely no way that I would change, that day at all. Not for any other reason than it's just been a challenge. We get challenged every day in life. There's people that have disabilities and have issues in their life that are way worse than me. And it's only taken me, you know, these years to figure that out, that I actually am very lucky to be in the situation I am, to be given a second chance, to have the ability that I have hasn't stopped me from living an active, healthy, enjoyable life. So yeah, it's just been a challenge for me, and something that each one of us faces challenge every single day. So no, is the long answer. Now looking back, I wouldn't change that. I think I've been given an opportunity that very few have, and I'm very, very grateful to I guess be where I am today.
I love it. Love that positive attitude and that resilient mindset. And I think that's something that we can all take on. We all do face those situations in life, and you know, we all have the opportunity to pick ourselves up and move on. And you know, that's something that you're a great example of doing. So to wrap it up for this afternoon, I would like to now ask you, is there any piece of advice that you have as a parting word to you know, give our leadership team and anyone who is you know, working with other colleagues, or maybe experiencing disability themselves, or potentially even who has a family member, loved one, someone in their life that has a disability? What's the best piece of advice that you can give walking away today?
I think it's, particularly if it was something personal to you or someone that you know, is to ask questions. I find a lot of people, situations might get a little bit awkward with someone with a disability, purely because there's so much, I guess, intrigue from someone. Particularly if you know them or you get to know them through the workplace, breaking down those walls might be a little bit difficult. But for most people that have a disability, they're more than willing to talk about it. So if someone in the general public simply came up to me and asked me what happened, I would gladly tell them what happened, because for me, that opportunity to change that one person's mind about disability will then go on to hopefully him or that person changing the perception of many other people. So be open, engage with people in disability. You know, people wouldn't assume seeing me in the mall in a wheelchair, you know, there's no way they would assume that I do what I do, you know, traveling the world, playing cool sport, you know, having a family, all those types of things just from seeing me. So engage with people that have a disability. Don't let your mind be wrapped up by the fact that they're disabled. Treat them as you would anyone else, and know that there's a story that's involved in that person as well, and ask those questions. People that have a disability are likely to talk about it, and it does break down those walls, and will make for a better environment for not only for them, but for you as well.
Great. Thanks, Andrew, for sharing your story with us this afternoon. It has been really inspiring, and I hope we can all take away some of that positive mindset that you've got. I think it's important for us all to be grateful for what we've got right now, and to look at what we can do to improve the lives of others around us. So thank you again, and we wish you all the best of luck with your future endeavours, and let's see the next gold medal.
Yeah, thank you. Thankfully, it's only three years away. So, no, thanks very much for having me today. It's been a pleasure. And if there's any other questions from anyone beyond this, please feel free to reach out to me at any time, and be happy to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.